There you are. I can see you.
Okay. I think we're all still getting tapped in.
My work life is as a pastor, so I had to shift to give you my real name rather than my church name.
Gotcha. Hey, Marvy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. Just woke up.
Hey, Marley. Good to see y'all. What time is it where you guys are?
8 a.m.
Ugh. Marley, what time for you?
It's
8
4
in the morning.
4 a.m. right now in
Ugh.
here. That's how
Goodness.
She doesn't sleep. Here's my baby. She's asleep.
Aww.
It's 4 a.m. in here. I just woke up.
We'll try to do the next one a little bit later, like 2 hours back. Would that be better?
It's okay.
Other side of the world, or would it be worse?
It's okay. Hi, just wanted to meet someone like, hi, Faith. This is my second time joining your Zoom meeting and I'm so excited again.
I saw that you were here once before. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
So, Joshua, where is our guest of honor? Do we know about her yet?
Yeah, Shawntell's right here. She's in here.
Wait a minute. Where'd she go? I don't see her.
I'm here. I guess I'm hiding.
There you are. I just totally missed you.
No worries.
Dark, because Sherry's still dark, so that might be what it was.
Is Mud gonna join us? I didn't know if
Mud is supposed to be here, but Mud is on her phone most of the time, and she comes in and her head is upside down, so
she does that on purpose, you know.
Yes, I know. So she turns her phone over, but that's why she does it on her phone. I think she has a laptop that's capable, but she still flips it over. Carla, how you feeling?
I have a migraine,
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry.
but I'm just going to lay here and listen.
Okay. All right.
It's been a busy week.
Yes, it has. I have not slept much.
Well, you've
Yes,
had quite
well,
the week.
I spent most of the week in the hospital. So, I mean, not for me, but with mom. So.
How's your mom?
Well, we got her to rehab yesterday, and she.
How do I see everybody, Bruce?
And she is had her first therapy today. That place is amazing, just amazing. Within 4 hours of getting there, she had seen 2 nurses, 6 techs, been given her first shower in a week. We've seen 2 doctors.
Nice.
And had the complete history taken and all of her meds dealt with right there. So it was really, really amazing. All right, so we're all here. That's before, after. So, all right, I've got to find a way to pull up my question. I'm not really bright. Hang on, I might have lost y'all. Wait a minute.
We can still hear you and see you.
Okay, Joshua, did you sent me that? You sent me that Google thing, and now I'm not. Oh, I lost you, didn't I?
Nope, I'm still here.
Oh, are you still here? Okay, I'm trying to figure out where that Google Doc went. Wait a minute.
I've got everything pulled up over here. I've got the list of questions compiled.
Cool. All right, and I know that there's a way.
So if you see me looking over in this direction, that's my other monitor.
Okay. If you hear dogs barking, that's my phone telling me that someone rang the doorbell.
Oh, nice.
If you hear dogs barking, it's just my 3 dogs.
It's just your dogs. Got it. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where is that button that lets me look at the questions. Is it chat?
Yeah, it's chat. I'll be putting those in there periodically once
As we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first off, hi, Shawntelle. It's so good to meet you. So good to see you. Everybody, we're going to learn about OCD werewolves and all of Shawntell's other worlds today. Woohoo! Love it. And I was supposed to have read the first werewolf book this week, but since my head has been not attached to the rest of me,
Oh, I feel you.
it's been a rough week. And I may not be coherent through all of this, so if you spot me and I'm doing this, just say my name really loud and I'll wake up, okay? I'll leave that up to y'all. Mud's trying to join. Are you there, Mud?
I am.
Are you not going to be upside down for us today? I've just bragged about you being the upside down girl.
Wait.
There
I am.
right side up.
Hey, Bud.
Love it. Love it.
I'm falling asleep. I'm having as much problem as you are. I've been up since 4:45 a.m.
Oof.
On purpose?
Yeah, I had to drop
Life
off.
is weird.
I had to drop off a dog.
Understandable.
Ah, good tea. So tea with faith is about to begin.
Are you doing that,
Um,
Serafina?
Say what?
Beast is joining us.
Beast is joining us.
Yes, little beast who lives in my basement is.
Oh, okay. All right. I got that one.
Yeah.
I have a basement too. Although I do tend to put mouse traps out for my little beastie.
Well, the cat belongs downstairs because we have people upstairs who are allergic, but she's just come up to like
Join.
flout that because she's a cat.
Got it. Mud, I don't know if I can handle you being upside down today. Would you just, because I'm so tired, would you please be right side up? Just this, please.
If I can figure this out, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, not again. It was already okay a while ago.
Well, while Mud is trying to become upright, tell us
Got
about
dropped
yourself.
early.
Serafina's out.
Say what, Mud? Okay, go ahead, Joshua.
I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and mute everybody except for you and Shawntelle just for the time being. If anybody has questions, there is a hand raise on your bottom bar down there if you have a question you want to ask, or you can also in the chat you can send a question to everyone. You can send one to just me or just to any participant in the meeting as well.
Okay, so where's the hand raise button? I'm looking.
Should be down here. I have different buttons because I'm running the meeting, so I actually have not been on the other side of the Zoom call yet. I know there's a
Can you
clap and a
see it?
thumbs up.
Do you see where
It's right down at the bottom. It says more, and there are little dots. And you push that more, and it gives you little hand things and stuff.
All I have is leave. Video participants chat.
Yeah, right down at the bottom.
Where I am.
I'm giving you a hand clap right now.
Locations.
I have reactions.
It's little three little dots.
Yeah, I've got reactions too. Maybe that's it. Okay, I see that now. So I can do. Okay.
Yay!
Yeah, that'll work. That's just a reaction for clapping. But if I see those, I can make sure to point them out. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody now, and then just unmute Faith and Shawntelle.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll start with Shawntelle. Welcome to Tea with. Tell me all about you, and then launch us into your worlds.
Oh, fantastic. First of all, I want to say thank you, Faith, for having me for tea time today. It was so lovely and ridiculously hot here in St. Louis, but it's nice to enjoy and see everyone's faces in this nice inside and enjoy time with everybody this afternoon. I'm Shawntelle Madison, and I would like to say that I just write in one genre, but no, when the ideas come, I just write what comes to me. I first started out back in 2012 with my first book that came out, that is Coveted, the first book that came out, and that is my OCD werewolf series that I had sold to, I guess, Random Penguin now, back in 2012, and that ended up being a 3-book series about Natalia Stravinsky, and she is a werewolf that has obsessive compulsive disorder. And it's the craziest idea that I've ever come up with. A lot of the stuff the standard stuff when I had started out with paranormal romance, I had read Christine Feehand, Marjorie Liu, a lot of the wonderful classics, but I guess I just had to jump off the pier into the craziest idea ever as far as coming up with an obsessive compulsive werewolf. But since that point, since doing the Coveted series and doing 3 books, I've also done more paranormal romance. I've done YA sci-fi, written some more paranormal romance in the A Hero Runs in Pack series. And I've just kind of branched out and done a lot of things with a lot of publishers and had a lot of fun along the way.
Very good. Well, okay, I have to ask, are you OCD?
That is a good question. I mean, honestly, I have not been diagnosed as OCD.
Right.
And I would say from my habits that I'm more stubborn than OCD. There's quite a difference. There's quite a difference in saying, and I have,
Yes.
my husband says to me, he's like, well, why can't, you have kids. That's why we had kids, for them to take the garbage out and to do chores. But if something isn't done a certain way, I prefer to do it myself. But as far as OCD, compulsively doing certain activities over and over again, wanting to do them, I would definitely say that I'm not OCD. But a lot of my readers have told me that it's a little, I get into Nat's head a little too easily. So I would probably say that I do have some tendencies. They just don't, I wouldn't say that they're full out, I'm diagnosed as OCD.
Got it. Okay. All right, Joshua, I need questions. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, Elizabeth says, I love Natalia.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, Kat.
That's
Boom.
okay.
Got this thing
Everybody
weighs
around here
20 pounds.
has critters except me now. All right, so, and
Okay, I've got my document here. So let's start with the question for both of you, okay? So let's see. This one's a good one. So why the jobs that you chose, and what outside of writing, and whether or not those are useful for your genres or what you write?
go ahead, Shawntelle.
Sure. Wow, my job has nothing to do with what I had pretty much started out in the STEMs and the sciences. I'm one of those geeks. I really thought I was going to be like a physicist working in a lab, working with atomic particles and all that kind of crazy stuff. And I learned that I'm not good at that. And so I ended up getting my degree in math, and then I became a web developer. And I have to say that that's a nice career in helping me with technology and computers and stuff. But as far as my writing fantasy and sci-fi, it's only gotten me so far. So yeah, I would have to say my job outside of writing has only gotten me so far.
I worked in a lab for 40 years in a little teensy hospital in a county with way more pigs than people. And I don't mean people who are pigs. I mean really pigs, because it was a farming community.
Oh, I'm from Iowa. I understand that.
Okay, so we saw everything. You would see somebody that had been trampled by a bull, or you'd see somebody who'd been run over by a train and lost body parts, or you'd see gunshots, because there's nothing like a county full of folks all drunk up on a Saturday night going for a ride. And you'd see every kind of trauma you could imagine. And in this little hospital, way back when, we did a lot of job sharing. So I got to is the wrong word. I was a part of treating all of these people. So I saw these injuries. And then I was the one who would draw vitreous fluid or urine or heart stick the deceased for the coroner. So I would take part in the autopsies. So in my case, I think all of the years in that particular lab made a big difference in how I can portray injuries, and I know how long someone would live with such an injury or why they might not live for something that looks simple. And I can build the reality into my worlds with that. And of course, all of my writer friends, you're my writer friend now, will write to me and say, okay, I want to disable this person, but not kill them, but I don't want them to be able to, like, you know, fire a weapon or run, or, you know, I want them to be really just kind of stuck there. And I'm going, well, do you want them to die eventually? No, I just want them to kind of be stuck there. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff that I've been able to take from the hospital setting where I worked and apply it to writing. And I think it made a big difference because my first book was co-authored with a cop that I met in the ER. So that was the beginning for my career. We wrote 2 police procedurals together as Gary Hunter. So, okay. Anything else, Shawntelle, or shall we allow Joshua to guide us forward?
Yeah, I'd have to say that I always defer to folks who know more medical stuff. My husband's a physician, so he's gotten some of the craziest questions ever from me. So I completely understand deferring, because you will get that one reader who will be like, he was shot in the arm on this particular spot and his arm can't move. So yeah, you have to defer, you have to get it right.
That makes all the difference. Well, when you're with him watching a movie, now this is totally not in our questions we turned.
Yeah.
You're with your husband watching a movie.
Yes.
Okay. And somebody says, it's okay, just shoot me on the shoulder, I'll be fine. Does your husband kind of cringe and go, oh?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Joshua?
All right, looks like Carla's got a question. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Carla. Okay, should be good now. Nope. I found
Here.
I did. There you go.
Am I good? Okay.
Yep.
Hi. It sounds really wonderful. I've never read your book, Shawntelle, but I've actually put one in my Amazon cart while I was listening to you. I love the idea. I mean, I've read the Kitty the Werewolf stories, and I love it when there's a lot of, there are things that make them quirky and different. Yes, Carla, get all 3. I think I probably shall. But anyway, I just wanted to say it really sounds like a wonderful premise, and I'm looking forward to it. How did you decide that was the quirk you were going to give your werewolf, to be OCD, if you're not OCD yourself?
That's a good question. The cool thing is how this idea came about was, since my husband's a physician, all over the house we have JAMA, we have journals everywhere. And so I just happened to be sitting in my bedroom, and there was, I can't remember if it was the American Journal of Family Physicians or whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, on the cover, they had an article about obsessive compulsive disorders, the treatment plans, the medication offered to patients, whatever technical jargon, blah, 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 boring to everybody else. But as I looked at it, you know, the author mind, I was sitting there and the engine just started turning, and suddenly I asked myself the question, what would happen if a werewolf had OCD? And with just looking at that front page, picking up the article, trying to read it and understand it, the wheel just started turning. And once I had the OCD and the werewolf together, Natalia just started talking to me. And once she started talking to me, I had her family, the cast, the location. It just kind of exploded in my head. And all I just needed was just that one idea of how to take a werewolf or different beings, magical creatures, and give them realistic, I wouldn't exactly call them quirks. I almost made them real people, because real people have real problems and real people have mental illness, and we all have to deal with it in our own ways. And so that is what I wanted to tackle, but I made magical creatures have our mental illnesses.
Love it. Thank you.
And thank you for your question. Looks like we've also got one from Ava Belliston. So I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand and unmute you as well. All right.
Okay, I pushed
There you
unmute. There we
Yep,
go.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Eva Belliston. I'm a 40-year public school teacher. I teach reading to kids who never learned how to do it. I have some questions about the trajectory that Nell is going to continue along. I personally really love the Soulwood stories. I think a certain amount of it has to do with the fact that my grandparents were all children of a fundamentalist polygamous sect. So there's a lot of what you've created their faith that rings very true to me. And where do you see her going? I mean, is there going to be a whole group more books? And are we, where does her trajectory from the end of the current book and moving forward go? Did I break the system?
No, Faith is muted.
Okay.
I got you. You're unmuted now.
Okay. All right. So I said that's a very well thought out and articulate question. And I don't know.
We're good. English major here. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I appreciate that. Sometimes when people ask questions and they're feeling their way through things, it's hard for me to follow. And since I am brain dead right now, I appreciate that very much. So the real answer is I didn't have a contract for book 6 until I still don't think I've signed it. But I've been offered a contract for the last Jane book, which will be, I think, 15, and the last Nell book, which will be 6, unless I figure out something else I can do with Nell. So I've got book 6 planned out in my head. I don't know what I'm going to do beyond that. I wish I could give you more.
Okay.
I've got elder care issues and a mother in rehab and living in the top 3 hotspot of COVID in the US, and in a world where everybody thinks they don't have to wear masks because it's all a hoax.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I
do know that.
I don't know. I'm really hoping that people will pay attention and let's everybody start wearing masks and washing our hands, and that will make the biggest difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it happening.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you for your question, Ava. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again here. And that actually leads into another question that we had prepared here, Faith, for both of you. How has COVID affected your writing? Have you been able to find more time for it, hit extra writer's block that you weren't expecting? Any other impacts that you've been seeing? And Shawntelle, you are muted right now. There you go.
Go with Shawntelle, because she is dying laughing. And I
How much time y'all got? I know the date exactly. March 18th is when my school district said that they were going to distance learning. So I guess I should explain this. I work from home full time, and I have teenagers. I have 3 teenagers. Now, one would think, okay, teenagers, this isn't so bad. The thing is, though, only one of the teenagers really does well with distance learning. The other 2 do not. Matter of fact, my oldest, he is on the spectrum. And distance learning, as far as he was concerned, having an IEP was horrible. It was a horrible experience for him to try to learn the materials. And so having to switch from me sitting in my office working to, okay, now I have to monitor the teens and make sure that they stay on task, make sure that they don't eat all the food in the house, actually made things difficult. And I actually had a release. My latest release, Thrift Store Trolls, was actually set for May, but due to having the kids at home and the changes with having everybody working from home messed up everything, messed up my headspace, worrying about it, having a husband who is a physician and having him go out into the field and have him potentially bringing it home, that was a stressor too. So I would say that I fell off the horse and the cart rolled into the river, and yeah.
Well, my issue started in December when I had something that sounded so much like COVID, it's not funny. And I immediately got this inflammatory situation, problems with my neck. I've got a degenerated disc at C5. I've got chronic progressive tendonitis and disease, whatever I had. It was too early for COVID, but I Swanee, every single symptom sounds like COVID. But it wasn't, can't be. It wasn't here then. And I have had this inflammatory cycle going ever since. So with the pain for the first 3 months of the year, I didn't write at all. And by that time, COVID was here. And during those 3 months, my mother's husband was diagnosed with some mild but progressive dementia. So she was kind of falling apart and calling all the time. And I don't mind that. It was hard, but she got a handle on it after about March. And I couldn't write anyway, really. I just didn't do much. And then COVID hit and I couldn't go over there because we didn't know what the transmission was. So I dove in once I could move my right arm at all. I dove in and started working. And I finished a book that was 3 months overdue. I wrote a novella and a short story. I wrote, I am now rewriting Junkyard Cats 2. So I have found that because I've been cut off from the family and don't have kids, I've been able to get an awfully lot done in the last, 4 months since the end of March. So in my case, it hasn't really been a problem, but man, it was the illness and the inflammatory response has been really interesting, and not in a good way, more like Chinese proverb way. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so let's see here. We've got a raised hand from Elizabeth. If I'm pronouncing that right, I do apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and unmute you here and lower your hand. You should be able to talk now.
I have a really simple little question, and it's for Shawntelle. Do you have a Christmas ornament collection?
Kind of. Pretty much, I'm one of those people that I love to go to estate sales, and I love antiques. So a lot of the ornaments that I have that I kind of Okay, yes, my house looks like Christmas throws up in my house. When Christmas comes, my house looks like Christmas threw up everywhere. And so I wouldn't say I collect ornaments. I say I collect holiday decorations. So yeah, Christmas vomits in my house.
My mother has that same condition. Back when she was more mobile, we were dragging out. It took her like 5 days nonstop to decorate, and that's not just her. That's her husband helping to put up the trees and string the lights and trees. The lights and bring everything down from the attic, which was like a 3-person job, and then put the empty boxes back up. And it was unbelievable. So the last 2 years she hasn't been quite so mobile, and it has not taken as long. Still have to get everything down, and she'll go, oh, I just can't even look at that box, I'm tired. Because used to every single room was decorated.
Yep, that's me.
That's you. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. But mother's house had so much Christmas that I haven't decorated for Christmas in over 10 years.
That's gonna be my kids.
Seriously, I have no tree. I have not brought the tree or the ornaments down from the attic in more than 10 years.
They're cute, Mud.
Those are adorable. That was a good question. Is it Elizabeth J? Just nod or no.
It's my misspelling. I'll correct my spelling. It's Elizabeth.
Oh. Okay, I thought it might be Elizabeth J. Oh, that sounded bad. I didn't mean to say that, but that was what, as I'm spelling it out, that's what I was thinking. Okay, I'll shut up.
Okay, so let's move on to another question. Let's see. So this is another one that kind of came up a little bit earlier, but the COVID thing came up, so that kind of worked better. So Mud sent this one in. So why the particular types of characters you chose? And I actually have this on a couple of different sections here. I'm just going to combine it. So Faith, you chose a Cherokee skinwalker. And skinwalkers are, in some traditions are typically like a Western tribal myth. And then for Shawntelle, you chose to write your OCD werewolf as a white character. So that it was just a question that we had, kind of combining a couple of different things in here.
Shawntelle, you go first.
Sure. When I came up with the idea, like I said, first in the journal, and I had the OCD werewolf, that was the first. I feel so lucky that character and the cast came in my head as a movie that started playing. And when Natalia started talking to me and introducing me to everybody, she was white in my head. And she also had this gigantic Russian family, the Kavenskys, because actually in my undergrad, I actually studied Russian. And so that was the nice thing, is I could just picture this family sitting around gathering. They love the holidays, they love to eat, and I could just hear them watching recorded Russian VHS tapes in Russian. I could hear them conversing in Russian. I could understand what they were saying. And it was just, everything formed in my head as far as the arc and as far as the character being white. That's how she appeared in my head.
In my case, I had always wanted to write mixed race characters because, or not necessarily just mixed, but that was where I started out, wanting to write mixed race characters in the 90s. And because I look so white, I was told I can't do that. But I'm really not. I'm of my 4 grandparents, I have, my dad's dad is Cherokee almost completely. My dad's mom is half African, half Irish. My mom's mom is Choctaw. And my mom's dad, wait a minute, now what is he? Oh, he's 1/4 African and half Bavarian. And then there's that other quarter we're still not sure about. So I always wanted to write from my family's perspective. And the more I have learned over the years, the more I realize that that's what's interesting to me, is all of these fabulous relationships that I've been able to piece together with the ancestry work that I've been doing. And it's really fascinating. And I wanted these characters to be that way. But when I found out my grandfather was tribal, and I went online and found the 1835, one of the 18 Cherokee rolls from 1835, and there's all my family's names. You know, I mean, line after line after line after line of my family's names. And that's why I wanted to do, in particular, a Cherokee skinwalker. So I happen to know through the writing field and a Cherokee elder. And I was able to ask her, what are some of the mythos that white people don't know about the Cherokee mysticism way back when? And so she started listing these, and she said, and then there's the skinwalkers. I said, stop. I said, I know about Navajo, Diné, I know about them. Tell me about the skinwalker. She says, well, very few people realize it, but pre-white man, pre-Columbian times, the skinwalker was the leaders of war. They were who led the tribes into battle against their enemies. And I went, oh, and this character boomed, just like you were saying about Natalia. It was just like, boom, I want to do a Cherokee skinwalker. Now, unlike you, I didn't have anything else at that time. But I sat down 2 days in a row with some friends back when we could do this kind of thing at a coffee shop. And I had tea, she had tea. Both of them actually ended up having tea in a coffee shop, and started bouncing things off of these other writers. And she began to come alive, but I didn't have a name for her. I knew that she was going to have amnesia because I needed to be able to learn about the Cherokee traditions and the Cherokee mythos as she did. So I was able to do all of my studying while I was writing. That's kind of a cheat, but it worked out fairly well, I think, in the long term. But I just fell in love with her, and I couldn't find the name. So I decided her name was Jane Doe, and that she was an orphan, didn't know whether she was tribal or not, but assumed she was just from her characteristics. And she then became Jane Doe Yellow Rock, because the only word she could speak when she was found in the woods at a supposed age 12 was Delanagei Digadoli. And Delanagei is gold or yellow rock in Cherokee. So that's why she ended up becoming Yellow Rock. Did I answer the question, or did I just ramble too long?
No, I think you answered it.
Okay.
Looks like Meg had a follow-up question that the Pueblo people's legends seem to be afraid of skinwalkers. So is the Cherokee culture coming from a different perspective?
Yes. According to the elder I spoke with, pre-white man, in almost all of the cases, the skinwalkers were good, but the priests and the forced indoctrination against magic made them evil, and that was something that was picked up. And of course, there were always evil people and good people, no matter what you are, paranormal or otherwise. So what was picked up was this this horrible evil character who were witches and did evil. And that was also present in the Cherokee. They were called the Spearfinger or the Utluna. And the Spearfinger had a long fingernail and would sneak into the Cherokee houses at night and slice open a baby and dig out its liver and eat it.
And that's where the liver eater came from in the first book.
Liver eater came from that in the first place. So that is, I had to include why that existed in my world building, why that trope, that truism existed, and also be able to explain why it used to not exist. It was different. And according to my friend, she said that in her opinion, skinwalkers were, the good skinwalkers were killed off by the white man, and that left only the bad ones who would do evil to hide. So I don't know, but that's what I did.
Real quick, before we get to you, Anne, it looks like we had another question that popped up in chat. Daryl was asking Shawntelle if you've read Octavia Butler or James Triptree Jr.
I am a huge, huge, huge Octavia Butler fan. Huge Octavia Butler fan. I was one of those kids, group small town in Iowa, and the library had a huge sci-fi section. So I've read the classics like Asimov, Heinlein, and they had a section full of Octavia Butler's books. So I have not read Tiptree Jr., but I have devoured Octavia's books. And it felt like full circle to me when my first book was acquired a long time ago by Del Rey. The editor-in-chief, Betsy Mitchell, actually had edited Octavia Butler. So
Wow.
for me, it was a huge honor to have a book acquired, my first book, Coveted, have it acquired by the same editor that had edited Octavia Butler. So yes, huge Octavia. I'm sad that I never got to meet her and that she had passed before I had a chance to meet her and be like, we're not worthy, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, huge Octavia Butler fan.
All right, and thank you for that. Looks like Anne has her hand raised. Looks like you're already unmuted.
Yes. Hi, I had a question for Faith. You know, as we read through these, we create our own images of the characters. And someone asked or observed that they thought that Jane was, I guess I've always thought of Jane as, because of her age and going backwards and forwards, I always think of her as looking as though she's in her 30s, and her brother Aya as looking a little bit older, even though technically he's younger. Do they look like they're very young in their 20s, or do they look like, in a human scheme of things, if they're older? Because I've never really heard another character reference, oh, you kid, what are you doing here?
In Jane's case, she didn't shift from the time she was 12 until the time she was 18. So in those years, she aged totally naturally. And when she shifted again, she took that 18 with her. And then she still spent a lot of time in human form thereafter. And she aged through that time until she learned to control her skinwalking abilities enough to draw back on the old DNA. Mm-hmm. Younger her DNA that was there in her body's memory. That's why she was, okay, if we've got spoilers, cover your ears. That's why when she was holding her own jaw,
right,
knocked out when she was a child, she didn't know how she would come back. She didn't know reintroducing childhood DNA to the shifting process would do to her. So in her case, she started out in the series being, if I remember right, she was 27. So she probably looked right at 27. Mm-hmm. But after this last book, after she came out of the rift, she looked younger because some of her magic was used to restore her DNA when she was healed of the cancer by going through the rift. So right. They look, actually she's sort of gotten younger looking, and Aya has spent a lot of time as a human too, so he's aged, they age differently in terms of looks, right, because of how much time they spend as a human. and how well they how capable they are at drawing on an old version of themselves.
Right. Okay. I got it.
I thought you were going to ask what they looked like on if I was to pick an actor, and I have no idea. So anybody who thinks you're going to ask that question, I do not know.
I've seen
Nope.
some fun fan casting stuff in the group chats on Facebook, so I'm always
Yeah.
entertained by those. All right, so it looks like we've got another question from Marley. So I'm gonna, so thank you, Anne. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you again. And
Before you do anything else, Daryl's blacked out. Is he supposed to be? Is that his choice?
yeah, he's behind Tess.
Oh, I see him. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I've got it. I understand now. I get it. Okay. All right. So go ahead. Who had the question? I forgot.
Marley.
There you are.
Hi. So I actually have two questions for both of you, the authors. First is, do you actually believe that some paranormal creatures exist? And the second is that, you know, our inspiration flows from everywhere. And with these COVID restrictions, the people we meet are limited, the places we go to are also limited, and almost our experiences are limited and restricted by the COVID pandemic. So does the inspiration are your inspiration hampered or affected by the restrictions brought upon by this pandemic? You know, inspiration, what I mean in inspiration is the new ideas, not the existing one that were already there before the COVID pandemic, but the new ideas, the input of upcoming new ideas.
Shawntelle, you want to go first?
Two questions for
Sure.
both of you.
So the first question, I would say my logical dinosaur mind, I really didn't, I could really fall into fantasy worlds and stuff like that, but there was this separation in terms of whether it was real or not. And I would have to say the first time I did a ghost tour during RT in New Orleans.
I was there!
Yeah, that was, okay, I gotta say, I went into a space where there was a fire and people had passed, and that was the first time in my life where I just felt this deathly fear, this cold in this room, to where I was like, okay, it's time for me to get out. There is another world. There's something else here. It's time to go. And so I would say that there are some things now where I feel like I'm like, okay, I can't be stupid about that. There is something beyond what I understand. And I would have to say for the second question, yes. And I would say once the pandemic started and once my routines were changed, yes, the idea factory sitting down to write thrift store trolls was near impossible. Usually I have plot bunnies. I have to give them condoms. Usually the plot bunnies are everywhere, and the plot bunnies were practicing safe practices, and I was not getting any idea. I would say probably maybe a few weeks ago, yeah, the bunnies are reproducing again and the ideas are coming back and I'm adjusting. So yeah, it just took some time adjusting to changes in the routine, and now the factory is working again.
Again, that's good.
I needed to get away from my computer for a while, and so I went to Ireland to whatever world conference was over there, I've forgotten, and came up with, as I'm riding on a train or going through some amazing place, I came up with this idea for a whole new world and a whole new character. I sat down with a pen and a paper, a spiral notebook, and I wrote like 15 pages in the spiral notebook of this story and this character, and it was so messy. I would draw arrows and go to page at star, add here, and it was just the most horrific mess you've ever seen, but it opened up my head. And when I got home, I immediately began to transpose this story. I got 2 of my handwritten pages in, and I threw it away, what I had written on the train and other ideas that I had absorbed in my hindbrain took over. And it was a much better story, because apparently I was just working out all the demons in that horribly, horribly messy barrage of words that just fell out of my pen. So my brain started opening up then. And when I was able to sit down after my 3 months away from the computer for pain, I was really wide open. And I've done short story and novella from different characters' points of view. And I have found COVID, the restrictions made my brain more productive. Now,
Nice.
Mom in the rehab and COVID everywhere around here, and what would happen if she got sick? I don't know the answer to that. That would probably make a big difference to my production. So I'm just praying she does not have that problem. So we are coming up on 5 o'clock, y'all, and have not heard Shawntelle read. Shawntelle, hold up the book that you're going to read from and tell us about it again, because we've got some new people.
Okay, so yeah, just warning for all the ears, there's cuss words in here, so I hope you don't mind the shit bombs that might be dropped. So sorry about that. But I'm going to read the opening of Coveted, just in case anybody hadn't heard it. And so I'll just read some of the opening chapter. All right. Here we go. Werewolves, in no shape or form, should own a fast food restaurant. No pancakes, no frozen custard, and for goodness sake, my people needed to stop peddling pizza. In my opinion, any establishment where my food could potentially grow microscopic wildlife wasn't my kind of place to eat. That pretty much left fire-grilled food on the menu, and the only good thing any werewolf grilled well these days was a well-done burger. And Archie sold the best double-stacked burger on this side of the Toms River. If the animal walked and men speared it, then Archie burned it the best. Hey, Natalia, you're here early, said Jake, the cashier. I averted my eyes after I placed my order. As usual, I was the lowest ranking werewolf in the whole joint. We're really busy now that the weather's cooling off. Jake offered a friendly smile. How's Bill? He's fine. Still the grumpiest boss ever. I ended the conversation and hid out in my usual booth while my food cooked. As much as I loved Archie's burgers, I preferred to keep to myself while I ate. As I waited, travelers coming off the Garden State Parkway came by for chow. They weren't like those tourists who walk around with fanny packs and cameras. Instead, they smelled of money. The cash they were about to spend on other people's old junk at one of the many flea markets that lined the parkway. 10 minutes later, Jake's younger sister, Misty, brought out my food on a tray. My mouth watered at the sight of the double cheeseburger and fries. But that snotty werewolf didn't even bother to acknowledge my presence. She simply dumped the food in front of me and strolled off. A single bright red gob of burger sauce landed on my pristine blouse. My eyes wide, I gaped at the stain as my chest tightened with alarm. And I thought I was crazy. The way she flung food on my table each week, it was clear that she had no idea how every spill, glob, and splatter drastically increased my stress level. With a shaking hand, I frantically wiped the spot with a stain pen. And all this after I'd spent a half hour this morning meticulously pressing my clothes. With my light chestnut-colored hair brushed to perfection and my low-heeled shoe shined, I'd felt like I could survive the day in relative peace. Well, as peacefully as a werewolf who obsessed over everything could. I didn't advertise my condition, but if you saw a chick scrubbing her clothes with an industrial strength stain pen, you might assume she's a bit of a clean freak. With an obsessive compulsive disorder, I took clean freak to the next level. But even with my condition, I lived what could be called a normal life. Archie's had been my lunch spot for the past few years. And no matter how bad the service was or the conditions, I refused to eat lunch anywhere else. So.
I love it. You introduced this wonderful character and all the conflict. And so I got to go by all three. So that will happen. Joshua, you have a question?
No, I was clapping.
Oh, loved it. So when she is a werewolf, is she still OCD when she's a wolf?
That's a good question. Actually, it's kind of like when she's a wolf, she's free, and her wolf form is free. It's freer from the OCD. It is kind of like the animal within her that doesn't have the burdens of the human, but her human side has the mental illness, but the wolf is free.
Love it. I think that's fantastic. Does the wolf look down on the human side because of the condition?
Not necessarily, because it's almost like it's who she is. And in a way, she likes being in the wolf form because she no longer has the burdens that the human has. It's a part of who she is. So yeah, it's not necessarily her wolf form looking down on her. It's just a part of who she is.
Love it. Okay, so I had thought we would both get to read from two different things. So I'm going to make mine really quick so you get a chance to go again. And I've got to look way over here. This is from Bound into Darkness, which is a novella, and it will appear, because I don't think I've read this on a Zoom before. If I had, y'all stop me. It will appear in the anthology Dirty Deeds, which is published by, will include R.J. Blaine and R.J. put it together. So R.J. Blaine and Devon Monk and Diana Farrow Francis and me. So we're each doing 40,000 words. And so this is my novella. It's called Bound into Darkness. It's from the point of view of two different people. This is Liz. Liz Everhart finished the email, tucked her cell into a back pocket of her jeans, ignored the weird buzz of blood-cursed taint that still pulled at her flesh, and tried to decide who she wanted to call for backup on this gig. Finding a lost dog sounded easy on the surface, but it could involve hiking up and down mountain ridges, maybe camping overnight, and then hauling a 70-pound, possibly wounded dog back to civilization. That wasn't something she wanted to do alone. Liz dialed her twin, Sia, and discovered she was spending the weekend with her boyfriend, so help on that quarter was out. Her other sisters were covering the family business, Seven Sassy Sisters Herb Shop and Cafe. That left asking Jane Yellowrock, who she didn't particularly like, and who was way too busy being some big hoo-ha in the vampire world. Or she could ask the man she had been avoiding for weeks. Yeah, him. She thought about being rejected again. Or not so much rejected as suddenly, inexplicably ignored. Staring out over the vineyard, watching her older sister Molly work. She remembered the various comments he had made a month ago, ones that suggested he was now totally disinterested. She didn't know what had happened, except that he had been in some pretty dangerous situations protecting Jane Yellowrock. So maybe he really thought the danger to civilians, as he called people who were not part of Yellowrock's vampire human witch clan, was too great for her to handle. Come to think of it, his apparent disinterest had come almost immediately after her bout with viral pneumonia. Son of a witch. That was it. Because she had nearly died, he thought she couldn't keep up with the danger. If she hadn't caught him looking at her a couple of times, she would have believed that he had changed his mind about them being together and become oblivious to her. Down the hill, Molly stretched hard and blew out. She had been hired to talk to the vines to help them grow. Molly was an earth witch, and when she talked to plants, she actively pushed her earth magic into the soil, into the roots, encouraging them to good health, to seek out proper nutrients. She gave them a boost of life. Liz wasn't an earth witch like Molly, but even she could tell the land here was well cared for, happy, and productive, in part due to Molly talking to the vines. Yellow Rock and her consort George Dumas should have a good crop come harvest time, and she was wasting time. Liz trudged back up the terraced incline to the Big Inn where Yellow Rock Clan wine label originated, and which housed the Yellow Rock Clan itself, a mixed para-clan that did crazy stuff trying to keep the human versus para war from erupting here as it had in other parts of the world. Politics. Liz hated politics, wasn't real fond of vamps, but Yellow Rock's adopted clan brother Eli Younger, the man who had been avoiding her, lived here. That ornery man made it worth the trip from Asheville. It wasn't a hard climb, but Liz was huffing by the time she got to the house. It was early fall, and the humidity, even in the hills above Asheville, was at 80% with temps near 90. And while Liz's lungs were better, thanks to witch healing, they were permanently damaged from the trauma that resulted when her now deceased elder sister, Evangelina, dropped a boulder on her in a magical fight over a demon. She had nearly died. Her other sisters had saved her from instant death. Yellow Rock had made sure she had vamp blood to sip to speed the healing. But even with continued healing and workings and her niece's prayers, trauma was trauma. Then the virus struck. Pneumonia had sucked. There were days when Liz still fought her way through every exertion, breath by breath, which is why she needed a partner to locate and retrieve the dog. Standing on the front porch, she pulled her red hair up in a tail and secured it off her neck with an elastic hair tie before going inside. When the door closed behind her, Liz stood and just breathed the cool AC air for a while, letting her sweat evaporate, listening to the placement of voices, the various positioning of people. No vamps, thanks to the daylight, but George Dumas was talking to Molly's husband in the kitchen ahead and to the right. Her niece and nephew were playing a game somewhere, one that involved a lot of shouting and screaming a single word over and over. A werewolf, one stuck in wolf form, which had always been unnerving, was panting from her left, and keys were clacking from the office area where Alex, Eli's brother, was working. Music came from upstairs. Jane had been dancing a lot lately, working on moves and trying to get control of some facet of her magic. Two particularly loud screams pierced the air. She heard Eli's soft voice say, "Good, excellent foot placement, EJ. Great arm position, Angie." Again. More dual screams pierced the air. The kids weren't playing a game. Liz didn't get teary often, but knowing that Eli, a big bad Army Ranger warrior injured in one of the Middle Eastern wars, tough as nails, emotional as a stone, was teaching her niece and nephew some form of martial arts did the trick. Both kids had been through a lot. And Eli, damn, Eli was just about as perfect a human being as she knew. She wanted to be part of his life, and he had drawn away because she might be weak. That made sense. He probably didn't want or need anyone else to care about, plan for, or worry about right now. But his eyes, those dark eyes, they still followed her. Blinking away the stupid tears, Liz wandered closer to the workout room, the screams ear-piercing, something like, "Ha! Ha!" For the one martial art she was familiar with, practitioners often shouted, "Kia! Kia!" But she knew that Eli practiced a military form of MMA, mixed martial arts, a combo of forms, so maybe that was the difference. Besides being Jane Yellow Rock's adopted brother, Eli was her second in command, in charge of mundane musicians and tactics, defensive measures, all that fighting stuff, because of the vamp war. The Everharts were part of that war, having been attacked and homes burned. His back was turned when she leaned against the wide, cased opening to the workout area. He was demonstrating a move that might be useful if an attacker or kidnapper tried to come at them. They knew from personal experience that they could be kicked up and tossed around like sacks of potatoes. But combined with the magic they were technically too young to have, according to all the witch lore Liz knew, Knowing this stuff could make them safer. One more weapon in their arsenal. And they looked adorable in the little white workout suits. She crossed her arms to indicate she was no threat. When Eli turned around, he didn't flinch or jerk, but his eyes landed on her instantly. A bare half second of recognition, evaluation, and moving on. He finished the forum with the kids, walked them through a series of stretches and breathing techniques for a few minutes. And then he said, okay, y'all go take off your dobaks and put on your play clothes. Your Aunt Lizzie wants to talk. She narrowed her eyes at him. No one called her Lizzie. The kids bowed ceremoniously, said together, thank you, Mr. Fantastic. They whirled to see her in the doorway and rushed at her squealing. They threw their arms around her. Together they shouted, hey, Aunt Lizzie. She frowned at him and tousled the red hair. They released her and sped away, bare feet pounding. Lizzie? She hated that name. A minuscule smile touched his mouth as he started across the floor space toward her. Lizzie, it fits you. We'll stop there. Okay, so we usually stop about 5:15. Shawntelle, do you want to read something else? I'm not going to read anything else today. Do you have something you want to read?
I was going to say, I mean, I have something else to read, but do we have any other questions? Pending questions, because I want to make sure if anybody has any questions for you, Faith, that they get any questions answered.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I did see one for both of you from Marvy. Do you guys research animal instincts, reactions, how they act for your writing, for writing the animalistic sides of your main characters?
I don't. I mean, I do, but it's not a heavy research. It's more of a surface scan because my characters have a human side. Shawntelle?
I would say, yeah, a couple of years ago when I had first started working on the Coveted Series, I did do some research into pack behavior, pack dynamics. So yeah, at least like Faith said, I skimmed it and then I tried to go deeper so that I could at least get into my character's head.
I want to hear Shawntelle read. Before she gets to read.
Can I ask one question before that though? Just
Sure.
it's one that Mud sent in, and it's been bothering me as well. Not bothering, but what is Nell, and are you ever going to tell us?
I know what she is, and I don't know if I'm going to tell you or not. I don't know. When this is one of those things that I don't plan out in a series. I wanted that part to come organically. I'm one of those really heavy pantsing. No, a really heavy outlining person. I don't pants a lot. So if there's not a reason to say something, then to me, that's my hindbrain saying during the outlining process, don't do that now. When the outlining process gives me a reason, then I will release something to the readers. But right now, there's no reason to. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's just, it's Mud's question, and I thought that one was kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that's all we've really. I mean, we've got a bunch more that we prepared in advance, but I think most of them have really been either answered or can wait for another time if we want to go ahead and let Shawntelle read.
Okay. I'll just read the opening chapter. There's a series of anthologies that I participate in every year called the Once Upon series. That I do with a lot of other authors. The latest release this year that was released in February, it's called Once Upon a Ghost. And what we do are fairy tale retellings. And so there's been like Once Upon a Curse, Once Upon a Kiss, Once Upon a Star. That was sci-fi fairy tale retellings. I had a lot of fun with that one. And the latest one that I participated in was Once Upon a Ghost. And it featured authors such as Yasmin Galenorn, Melissa Marr, and I had a lot of fun doing a Hansel and Gretel retelling. And so I'll read, I'm looking this way, I'm looking at the monitor to read my Hansel and Gretel retelling. So I'll just read the opening chapter. So chapter 1, Everbell. A sharply dressed lady, in all black, mind you, marched her way toward my bakery. It wasn't hard to spot customers through my window. They all approached in a similar manner. eyes focused on their destination, doubt in their steps. Some even passed my shop, but doubled back. This woman had no indecision. Winter had come early to London, but that didn't stop her from tilting up her chin to the overcast sky. The bitterly cold wind pushed her back, but she plowed forward as the ribbons of her bonnet trailed after her like Queen Victoria's royal banners. I sighed, for every time the door opened, other doors opened and secrets spilled out. And not all of them were as delightful as the hazelnuts I sprinkled on freshly prepared mazarines. "How may I help you?" I asked her. She barely crossed the threshold into my shop. "Miss Amberglass, please tell me the rumors are true." I drew in a sharp breath, not too big since my corset wouldn't allow it, as the chill from outside swept through the shop. In the kitchen, in the back of the bakery, I caught the faint clink of saucers shifting on a shelf. The woman's attention never wavered. Good. "Please come inside." While I washed flour off my hands at a nearby sink, I said, "Madam, I don't know what you've heard. Don't turn me away." The door whispered shut and the bell jingled softly. "I hear you can pull the past into your pastries." Another saucer clinked, reminding me my customer and I weren't the only people in this room. The living ones, anyway. The woman continued, "My dearest brother Richard. He was a talented baker like yourself. Every Christmas he used to prepare Nestle Road cream." Her face brightened and tears glistened in her blue eyes. "After he passed, my siblings and I tried to replicate his efforts, but..." While she spoke of her brother, the face of a chubby, freckled-cheeked child came to mind. My brother. He had a mischievous smile and ruddy skin. The bitter smell of the soot trailed after him. His name sat on my lips, but to speak his name would cause a ruckus in my kitchen and frighten my poor customer. My hand rose. There was no need for her to explain further. "Come back in 2 days, and you'll have Richard's Nestle Road cream." She grasped my damp hand between her gloved ones. Her gratitude sent warmth into me. With a small smile, she left the shop as another customer came inside. "Just a moment." I dried my hands on my apron and glanced up to see a man, a handsome one at that. Miss Everbell Amberglass. He spoke as if he stated fact. "I'm Malcolm Featherton. What can I do for you?" My apron strings tugged as if strong hands pulled me closer to the counter, closer to the man with tufts of brown hair peeking from under a worn top hat. "Brother, why can't you be still today?" I thought. Mr. Featherton strode deeper into the shop, weaving around my bread stand. For some reason, he sidestepped an empty space. My gaze swept from his shiny shoes to his wide shoulders. His angular face resembled a cat's, symmetrical and pleasing to the eye. Mr. Featherton's nose was perfectly straight, while his full lips, which were wonderfully shaped, quirked into a grin. "It's not what you can do for me," he said smoothly. "It's what I can do for you." I licked my dry lips. What he could do was march right back out the door. This wasn't the first man that had sidled into my shop to sweet-talk me. A set of china near the back window slid a few inches to the right. Let him not see. With a hawk's razor-sharp focus, Mr. Featherton's gaze flitted to the china. "Damn it," he saw it. "How long have you been like this?" he asked. "What? You know very well what I'm talking about, Miss Amberglass. How long do you plan to leave him like this?" The forced smile on my face keeled over and died. "You're not making any sense," I said crisply. "Perhaps you'd like some pastries instead." I gestured to a plate of apple turnovers. Maybe a meal would set his head straight. To my horror, the plate moved away from my hand. "He's rather mischievous," he said with a chuckle. "Excuse me, he?" Mr. Featherton's smile widened and his gaze bore into me. "There's a man in here with us. I won't tell you much more, but I know you two are related and he cares for you. My stomach soured and my knees turned to ash. The floor could have opened up and swallowed me whole. Did he really know about my brother? When I remained silent for too long, he repeated his question. How long? Who are you? Was all I could manage to say. In a way, you're able to recreate baked goods from your customers' deceased loved ones. I'm able to reconnect with ghosts directly. He took off his hat and laid it on my counter. The ghosts in the neighborhood told me to come to your shop this morning. I craned my head to the side. Was he speaking the truth? You're pale. Are you all right? He reached across the counter for my hand, but pulled back just as quickly. I managed to nod. So why did these ghosts tell you to come here? You've hidden away for years in your little shop, but you have unfinished business. His face hardened, and your brother can't protect you anymore. Protect me from what? You must set him free and confront the evil that left him like this. That half-dead evil witch. Not today or tomorrow. The tiny thread holding the past safely tucked away in a pretty box shuddered. I saw that horrid, ramshackle house again, recalled that foul-smelling bog, smelled the scent of burning flesh. I snapped, "Thank you for stopping by, Mr. Featherton. You may leave now." He frowned, marked my words. Your brother will go weaker as time passes. He plucked a card from his pocket and placed it on the counter. Come see me tonight before midnight. You'll need the crimson key for your journey, and the full moon is the only time we can procure it. Before he closed the door, he added, your brother told me you need to play with the dog more often. What dog? I peered in the direction he looked, the very same spot he'd sidestepped earlier. So that is the opening to What Magic Lies Beneath, and that's a short story in the Once Upon a Ghost anthology.
I love it. I think that should be a whole series. Okay, y'all. This was wonderful fun. I enjoyed every minute of it. Now that we have, Shawntelle, you are our third podcast. And now that we have 3 in the can, so to speak, we will begin putting them up on YouTube. And I will let you know when we are up. Shawntelle, tell us where people can buy your books and tell us what your website is.
Sure. So I am at ShawntellMadison.com. The nice thing is there's only so many authors with the name Shawntelle. So if you just Google Shawntelle author, you shouldn't have too many trouble finding me via our friend Google. Also, I am available through all the social media outlets. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and I have an Instagram account. I don't post there as much, but I do actively post on Facebook and Twitter. So you can find me online and find my books through all the retailers, Amazon, Kobo, Apple Books. You can find me everywhere.
Wonderful. Everybody, thank you so much for coming. This has been fabulous.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out real quick. Mud did link a couple of things from Shawntell's website in the group chat. If anyone's interested in checking those out from your website, Shawntelle.
Great. All right, everybody, I'll take a look before we sign off. So if you click on something, you've got a chance to do it. And I thank everybody for showing up. Shawntelle, you were a wonderful guest. Thank you for sharing your, well, here it's afternoon. I guess it's afternoon there with us. We really appreciate it. This was loads of fun. And now I have so many new books to buy. I appreciate your time. And Joshua, thank you for being a wonderful host.
No problem at all. And thank you both. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody so we can all say goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This was the first tea I came to, and I admit I've been reading Faith for ages, but Shawntelle, you were the big draw for me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I had fun.
This was wonderful.
Thank you, Shawntelle.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
both.
Fun,
All right, guys.
I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
this. Thanks, ladies.
I'm going to wait.
This is,
Bye.
this is how sign language applauds.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good Sunday. Wear your mask.
Not your hands.
Bye, everybody. Shawntelle, I usually hang around a little bit, but I had an emergency phone call from my stepfather who's at the hospital, at the rehab with my mom. I gotta run, go.
Oh, go.
Check that one. So I'm gonna let Mud and Joshua say the goodbyes for everybody, and I'm gonna slip out and go make my call. Love you, everybody. Thank you.
Love you, Faith.
Love you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mud.
That was nice.
Al, do you want
Bye.
peach
Mhm.
jam, peach hot jam, which seems to be what I offer people as thank yous?
Oh, sure. I mean, the fact is that I never say no to jam. I just hearing the word jam that I can put on pretty much everything.
Awesome. PM me your address and yeah, because I'll send out. That's Faith's favorite. Ilona's is gooseberry. And I have strawberry, and I'll be getting blueberries tomorrow and raspberries shortly.
Did you get peaches from the Georgia Peach truck?
You got it. Uh-oh.
I went up to Kenosha because they're not here in Chicago this year.